Hello, in this one, a beginner's guide to the essences and to the early item crafting. You can start enchanting your items after you finish Act 13 or Episode 3. On the blacksmith you can press enchant, and in here you can see all of the essences available. So let's start. First of all, whenever you have a normal grade item, you can make that item blue with magic upgrade essence. When you have this, you can use birth essences to imbue the affixes. Not always all affixes are gonna be imbued. Whenever you have a question mark, you can use magic imbue essence to imbue an essence on the question mark. And with magic change essences, you can change the values of those. So let's say I have 65 HP, I want 71. So I keep imbuing till I get 71. But the way the game works, you don't need any blue items, so most of the blue essences are not used in the game. You always go for the rare upgrade essence, so basically making your item yellow. At this point, you have 6 affixes. That means you have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes. The way to differentiate between the affixes, it's really simple. When you look at the icon and the icon flares up, it's a prefix. When it flares down, it's a suffix. This way, you can see how many prefixes or how many suffixes you have when you have below 6. Of course, I have question marks right now. I can use imbue rare essence to imbue all of the question marks, like this. Same with change essence, changing the values. So let's say 170 mana. I got it on the first click. Then there is reversion essence. I do not suggest to use reversion essence. It's kinda expensive, even though it's a normal grade. If you want to recraft your item, for some reason you want to make it normal or blue, I highly suggest just to drop another base. Disintegration essence removes one of the affixes by chance. So it can remove either a prefix or a suffix. So it looks like this. Whenever you press on it, it removes one of those. In this case, it removes a suffix. If you want to get that suffix back, you use the imbue essence. Quality birth essences change the quality of your item, and quality impacts the base stat. So I have 377 on the armor. I'm pressing Alt. Whenever I press Alt, my magnifying glass lights up, and I can see the specific values or the values that the item can roll. So I'm using quality birth essence, as you can see, +2 quality. It can go up to 10, but it's a low chance. But on good items, you want to aim 8, from 8 to 10. There is a unique quality modification essence, which can go from -10 up to +20. So it looks like this. I got +3. But your value can go also to the negative side. If your values are going to the negative side, you just need to keep imbuing till you get a positive. Unique essences like prefix option birth, prefix removal, suffix birth, and suffix removal I used most often late into the game, and the way it works and the main idea looks like this. So right now I'm gonna pick up my rare birth essence. I'm gonna press repeat settings. In this interface, you can see what type of affixes the item has and what is the percentage to roll those. So for example, on boots, what I'm looking for is movement speed and let's say some armor multiplier. I can press to fulfill one of these options. That means if I press OK, it's gonna roll one of those options and it's gonna stop at that one option. If I press 2 options, it's only gonna stop when it rolls both of the options, and so on so on. So this is the way to use the birth essences. At the same time, right now, let's say I have a prefix that I want, and chill dodge chance, let's say I want it. That's what I was looking for. So my prefix is done on this item. Right now, I would only use unique essences to roll my suffix. And that's how the crafting looks like late into the game. Basically, as soon as you start dropping the unique essences. So right now, I'm only working on my suffix. I don't do anything with my prefix because I'm happy with it. I keep rolling. Right now, you can choose whatever you want to roll. Let's say I don't want that gear stat requirement. Then I'm gonna use a suffix removal essence, because if you use this integration essence right now, it can remove one of the prefixes, but my prefixes are done, so using this integration essence can break your craft. So right now, I'm only gonna use removal. However, all of those removal essences are RNG. You don't know what it's gonna remove. You only know that it's gonna remove something from the suffix. So let's remove it. It removed the gear stat requirement. Let's say I didn't want that gear stat requirement. That means it was a good removal. Then I'm using imbue to imbue whatever else you want to get, till you get your desired outcome. Same would go for the prefix option birth essences. Some of the items you want to start with the prefix, some items you want to start with the suffix, so it depends on your priority on how you want to craft it. That way, you're either gonna use a prefix unique or prefix or suffix unique. From the legendary essences, most often we're gonna use a list essence, as this one is the most common one, and it saves you a lot of time, because you can choose one of the prefixes or one of the suffixes, and you're always gonna roll it at 100%. So let's say I want movement speed, I press OK, I press enchant, and I'm always gonna get movement speed and all other affixes at random. This one simplifies your crafts late into the game, because late into the game you always focus to craft the suffix or the prefix first, and then you use the uniques to craft the affixes that you lack. Vesper Essence, it changes the affixes, the tiers of your affixes that you have in your item. So for example, I have not too high tiers. I would use my Vesper Essence to make those tiers higher. However, most of the time, when you craft your item, because you prioritize either a suffix or a prefix more, let's say I prioritize the prefix right now more, I would remove my suffix. That means I would do it before I start crafting the suffix. I would use Vesper Essences to only change the affixes on these three affixes. And because it's a really high chance to change those, my Vesper Essence has higher chance to imbue me a higher tier affixes. So for example, I'm gonna use one. I'm not gonna try too hard, just for example. Yeah, I imbue 10-10. Let's say that's what I wanted to. And that's how it looks. And right now, I would start crafting my suffix. But right now, when I already use my Vesper Essence, I would try to get not only the suffixes that I need, but at the same time, I would try to imbue high tier of those suffixes that I need. So, let's say I want fire resistance, but for me, tier 6 is too low. I would want to aim for like tier 8 or tier 9, because we're no longer gonna use our Vesper Essence, because it doesn't make any sense to use on 6 affixes, as the chances are much lower. That would be the example of how to use the Vespers. Right now, let's get into a little bit something more complicated, but I only gonna mention what it does. So, Serpent's Essence can make your prefix into suffix or suffix into prefix. And that means you can either have 4 suffixes on your items or 4 prefixes. Authority Essence is a little bit late into the game. The main idea of this is that depending on the authority you choose, on the item base that you choose, so for example, Boots has one type of authorities with types of prefixes and suffixes. For example, Alyssa, as you can see, have strength. On the suffix it has some sentry stuff. Boreal has defense and enhanced Killoon effect on the suffix, has strength on the prefix, and so on and so on. So authorities, it looks difficult. However, authorities were not updated for such a long time that we already know what you want to get on all of the builds that are possible in the game. I have those crafts on YouTube. Basically, whenever you craft an authority item, you also want to use Serpent's Essences because it opens up a lot of avenues. I don't want to get into this right now. However, I'm gonna leave the videos in the description. You can see how to craft later gear items. And that's where I'm gonna stop with this. There is another essence that's called Option Stat Change. And this one changes the base of your stat. So for example, I have 377 out of 378 maximum valor. This is a bad example. Let's choose maybe bow. Yeah. Bow is 173 to 33. That means if I use the option stat change, I might be able to get a little bit more of the base. So I'm gonna use it. I actually got lower because it's RNG, but that would be the main idea, to change the base stats of your items. However, do not use this on your craftable items, because you can always drop a high base items just from grinding the maps. You might need to grind your maps a little bit longer till you get the juicy base, for example, of 1500 armor, but it's much easier to drop than to use this type of essence. This type of essence, what it's good is for the unique items, because there is no way to change the base stat of unique item. So this one would make the most sense if you want to fix your unique items. I don't want to talk a lot about divine essences and legendary upgrade essence, as legendary upgrade essence is just bunch of RNG. You have specific legendary suffixes and prefixes, and whenever you imbue, you basically lock your item. Whenever your item is legendary, you won't be able to craft on it anymore. That's how it looks like, and it's a lot of RNG. To get a good legendary prefix, you would need to use the legendary reversion essence, which is quite a bit expensive, because you can get it from Disassemble shop with disassembled mats, but disassembled mats they are easy to get, but they require a lot of grind. But at this stage, whenever your item is locked, and whenever your item is legendary, you can use another type of divine essence, which is ancient. On unique items, it would be holy essence. On legendary items, it's ancient essence. And again, there is a lot of RNG to get what you want. So basically, this is end game crafting. There is a lot of reversions, there is a lot of grind investment, and so on, so on. Right now, let's talk about the item enchanting. And first of all, let's start with the basics. So you're gonna see that in this game, there are bases that has a low critical rate and a high base damage. And there is another base that has a high critical rate but low base damage. And that's the main way to differentiate on what type of weapon you are looking for. I'm showing you a bow, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be a bow. It works exactly the same on any type of weapon. So if you are doing a critical build, you always want to have a high critical base. And you always want to aim on that item to have a gear critical rate multiplier. That's for the critical build. If you are doing a maximized build, it's opposite. You are looking for as low critical rate as possible, because that's gonna give you the maximum amount of the base damage on the bow. And at this stage, you don't want to get gear critical rate multiplier. Gear critical rate multiplier on the maximized build, it's not gonna give you any damage. That would be the differentiation between the critical build and the maximized build, but this is really important, as the earlier you know, the earlier you're gonna craft on a correct base. So let's talk about the tiers and the level of the item. So first of all, tier of the item is really simple. It's gonna increase your base stats of your items. The higher tier you go, the more, for example, attack damage you're gonna have. I have tier 31. As you can see, it goes to 274 on a critical base, and I'm gonna use tier 34. It goes up to 395. So it increases the base stats. But there is a nuance, because as you can see, my bow level is 165. And what the level does to the items is that it enables to roll higher tier affixes, but at the same time, it removes the lower tier. So I have 165 bow. As you can see, I can imbue tier 14s from tier 9 to tier 14. And if I look at the low level bow, base doesn't matter in this case. We are only talking about the level. you can see that I can only imbue from 5 to T11. And that's the main idea of the levels on your items. And it's not only true for the weapons, it's about any other type of item that you have. And this is what you want to have on your weapon whenever you finish the campaign and you start doing your maps. You start getting more of these essences. These are the effects that you're looking for on the bow or on any kind of weapon. Let's say we are crafting a critical weapon. You want to get weapon damage flat, weapon speed, and whatever type of flat damage that you are doing. Let's say you're a physical build. So this is your prefix. And let's say if you craft this bow, you would want to start with the prefix and craft the suffix later. But I'm gonna show you everything at the same time. So this is the perfect prefix that would fit you early into the game. Suffix on a critical build would look like this. Gear critical rate multiplier is a priority, then weapon attack damage multiplier, and the last one, you can go critical damage multiplier. This is basically the best in slot critical weapon early into the game. So if you're doing a maximized build, you want basically exactly the same, but what you don't want is gear critical rate and critical damage. You want to get a maximized damage because you're a maximized build, and then because we don't have that good options, you would like to get a physical damage multiplier because we are physical damage flat. That's how the bow should look like for a maximized build. And this works for any type of weapon base that you're looking for. After this, I want to point out how to craft non-weapons, your defense equipment. So let's start with the chest. On the chest, what you want to have, and what you want to have on most of your defensive items, it's HP multiplier or HP flat, and then gear armor multiplier or dodge multiplier, but basically a gear multiplier. That's how your prefix should look like. You don't need to get all of 3, even 2 is gonna be enough. This one is gonna make you much tankier. On the suffix is entirely up to you. What I suggest to get on the suffix is all of the resistances that you lack. So let's say this would be a pretty solid early game enchant on your chest. For the helmet is exactly the same idea. We are looking for HP multiplier, some main defense multiplier, and then suffix, you want to solve it, you can pick up some kind of resistance or whatever you lack. If you're looking for more offensive craft, you can get hit rate, but early on low level maps, hit rate is not as important. The difference is on the gloves. On the gloves, you want to craft them a little bit more offensively. So instead of looking for defensive rolls, you want to get attack speed multiplier, maybe a little bit of hit rate flat. And then if you don't need anything else, of course, you can go back to the main idea, is to craft the defenses. So that would be a armor multiplier. On the suffix, because gloves have plenty of offensive rolls, critical rate is gonna work on every single build. And if you are critical build, you also want to get critical damage. And the last stat, you can pick up something like chaos resistance, as chaos resistance is hard to come by, and this would be a pretty solid gloves craft. If you are a maximized build, that means you don't need any of the critical, you can just go pick up maximized damage and something like a hit rate multiplier. Right now, the biggest difference is gonna be on the neck. The neck, without the authorities, is really simple to craft. You always aim for flat damage, whatever flat damage you do. Let's say I'm doing physical flat. I'm looking for physical flat. Then you want to have some HPs. Again, HP is really important. And again, some physical damage multiplier. If you are elemental build, you want to pick up elemental multiplier. On the suffix, don't shy away from some stats. Stats are really nice. Then you can get some elemental resistance on the neck or hit rate. Suffix on the neck is kinda absolutely up to you. The prefix is more important in here, as prefix is quite a bit more offensive. On the rings, you want to roll. You want to make ring as offensive as possible. So you want to get attack speed. At the same time, depending on type of your damage, you want to either go physical damage, elemental damage, or some kind of melee, area, or projectile, depending on you. But remember, these two can't overlap. You can only have one. So let's say it's a physical damage multiplier. On the suffix, if you're critical build, we are going again critical rate multiplier, critical damage. And the last stat, you can aim for some resistance, but if you don't need any more resistances, of course, aim for some stats. Stats are really nice. That's how the ring would look like. Of course, we have one more prefix left. You can aim for HP. On the boots, you want to get movement speed, and everything else is kind of up to you. You can't craft them too offensive, but movement speed is really important in this game, so try at least get movement speed, and after that, if you need more defense, just go gear multiplier, and if you need resistances, just pick up any resistances as you like. And this would be what you want to have early and what you should aim early on your items. Of course, everything changes whenever you start to do authorities, but authorities I'm gonna leave in video description. You can check on how to do the crafts, how to use serpent's essences, how to do a very specific crafts to most of the builds. But for this, GG's, this is everything I want to show, and see you in the next one.